Welcome back to all the participants of the third National Pulses Seminar hosted by India Pulses and Grains Association. We have now reached the last panel for the seminar, which is the Peace panel. And this panel will be moderated by Mr. Sunil Sawla, Honorary Secretary, India Pulses and Grains Association. Along with him are Mr. Mithilesh Kumar Gupta, Proprietor, Annapurna Udyog, and President of the Kanpur Dall Millers Association, Mr. Sergey Feofilov, General Director, Ukragroconsult LLC, and Brett Melvin, Trader, Maviga NA. I would now request Mr. Sawla to take over, and it's all yours, sir.
Good evening, Mithilesh ji. Good morning to all our overseas panelists. We are in a very interesting situation as far as yellow peas is concerned. Since the government is not expected to remove the restriction on peas, there's also an apprehension among the government to release quotas. Hence, the focus will be on the local produce. Approximately 1.5 to 2 million tons annual imports have been displaced. So I think, Mithilesh ji, you will be in a good position to give a local perspective of the local crop and how it is going to impact the consumption, whether the consumers are at this high price, whether they're going to move away from yellow peas or whether they're going to continue buying at the higher levels which we see now. So Mithilesh ji, over to you for your presentation, and I will introduce Mithilesh ji. Mr. Mithilesh Kumar Gupta, Managing Director of Annapurna Udyog, has been in this sector for very many years and is recognized as one of the foremost authorities of the pulses sector. He has an in-depth understanding of production, processing, and marketing aspects of pulses, and his views and opinions provide guidance to all the stakeholders in this sector. Mr. Gupta's business is led by his vision to ensure availability of quality pulses to citizens of India, bridge the gap between government and pulses processing industry, and addressing issues like stock limit, import-export policies on behalf of members. Mr. Gupta, apart from managing the group's business affairs, also serves as President, Uttar Pradesh Dal Mill Association, State General Secretary, Provincial Industries Association, and is a member of the Industrial Development and Seva Kshetra Niti Nirdharan Samiti, Uttar Pradesh. The group's business include Annapurna Udyog, Shri Raman Bihari Agro India Private Limited, Kanpur, Annapurna Industries, Shri Yogeshwar Rice Mill, Flavicon Eco Boards Private Limited, SRB Plastipack, and Shri Raman Bihari Cold Storage. That's a big range, Mithilesh ji. Over to you for your presentation.
Thank you. IGPA पल्सेस सेमिनार में दाल दलहन व्यापार से जुड़े देश के प्रमुख इंपोर्टर, एक्सपोर्टर, मिलर्स, ब्रोकर्स को अभिवादन करते हुए धन्यवाद देना चाहते हैं टीम IGPA को, जिन्होंने मुझे अपनी बात रखने का अवसर प्रदान किया। धन्यवाद देना चाहते हैं।
I want to thank IPGA also, who has invited me on this stage,
ये संगठन देश के लोगों को जागरूक कर
and because of him, this organization is doing very well in the field of pulses.
मटर के क्षेत्र में
as far as
लोगों को जानकारी देना चाहता हूं
peas are concerned, I want to tell you that in Uttar Pradesh, you know that there is a lot of production of peas in the state, and definitely we are producing a lot of quantity of peas in our state. In this current year, we have increased it a lot. Around 10 to 12 lakhs ton butter has been produced, peas has been produced in the state. But the government of India has put some restrictions on this. And as you know, that the peasants and farmers of India increased the production of grams suddenly, and because of this they could not get the proper price of peas. As you know, that the peas flour and
इससे प्रोटीन प्राप्त होता था, सबसे सस्ता
is the cheapest source of protein for the people of our country.
इसमें अभूतपूर्व वृद्धि हुई,
and because of this we have increased the production of peas.
कमी आई है, कारण कि चने दाल सस्ती और चना दाल बेसन वो सस्ता था,
that gram flour was very cheap in earlier stage, but now it's
विदेशों में भी अस्थिरता का माहौल बना। विदेशों में भी जब स्थिरता आई तो उन्होंने मार्केट यहाँ की जगह डॉलर में कमी आई, रेटों में कमी आई, और विदेशों में जब एक आज की स्थिति में उन्होंने एक नई मार्केट कैप्चर करी, और वहाँ पे जैसे चाइना 18-20 लाख टन कंजम्पशन हो गया चाइना में, तो उनको भी एक नई मार्केट मिली। तो हम आज इस पटल के माध्यम से सरकार को भी आकृष्ट करना चाहते हैं कि कम से कम देश में रोक लगी रहे, लेकिन देश की एजेंसी वो यहाँ पे इम्पोर्ट करे, वो इम्पोर्ट करने के बाद मूल नियंत्रण भी रह सके, और यहाँ की जो आम आदमी है उसको सामान्य रूप में सस्ते दामों में प्रोटीन उपलब्ध होता रहे। ऐसी भी एक हमारी इस पटल के माध्यम से दरख्वास्त है, जिससे टेंडरिंग करते हुए वो यहाँ पे अपने दलहन को बेच सकेगी।
And definitely they can sell these products.
जिस तरीके से IPGA के माध्यम से दाल दलहन की संतुलन आपूर्ति और मांग के संबंध में जागरूकता की जाती है, इसके लिए पुनः मैं धन्यवाद देता हूँ।
And they are spreading the awareness about peas. I want to thank them.
आवश्यक है तो पूछ सकते हैं।
If you want to ask any question, you are welcome. Thank you, Mr. Mithilesh. Do you think that, as you told, that you are telling that the production will be from 11 to 12 lakh tons? What will be the prices of the peas? As far as consumption is concerned,
30 लाख टन पिछले बीते वर्षों में 30 लाख टन
in the last years,
यहाँ पर देश में
the consumption was 30 lakh tons.
30 लाख टन 2015-16 में जो आयात हुआ है वो नियर अबाउट 30 लाख टन हुआ है।
2015-16 the import was only 1%.
यहाँ पे 30 लाख टन के आसपास थी, चूंकि चने का भंडारण अधिक होने के कारण यहाँ पे जो रोक लगाई गई उससे इसमें अस्थिरता आ गई। अस्थिरता आने के कारण से स्टेट में उथल पुथल हुई, और जो भी कंजम्पशन जो आवश्यक रह गए उसके माध्यम से यहाँ इसमें महंगाई बनी हुई है। आज की तारीख में मटर और मटर दाल का बेसन अत्यधिक महंगा है, चने दाल का सस्ता है और मटर दाल का महंगा है।
As far as it is compared to
gram flour, तो इसमें गवर्नमेंट से हम पुनः ये मांग करते हैं कि इसमें आयात किया जाए, और अपने एक नई फसल जब कनाडा में और दूसरे देशों में आती है तो उसमें भंडारण किया जाए, उसको टेंडर के माध्यम से जब इसमें मूल्यों में बढ़ोतरी और उसको टेंडर के माध्यम से मतलब यहाँ पे बेचा जाए देश के अंदर, यहाँ के ट्रेडर्स मिलर्स को उपलब्धता रहेगी, तो उचित मूल्यों में प्रोटीन आम जनता के लिए उपलब्ध होगा। और यही हमारा IPGA के माध्यम से जो आज जागरूकता की जा रही है पल्सेस के क्षेत्र में, उसमें ये बहुत बड़ा योगदान IPGA का है कि मांग और आपूर्ति का संतुलन बनाए रखने में जिस तरीके से संगठन ने आगे वो किया है, विजन दिया है, तो उससे लोग जागरूक हुए, जिस चीज की कमी होती है तो उसको विदेश से मंगा के अपने आप भंडारण करते हैं, और भंडारण करके समय पर जब अत्यधिक महंगाई आती है तो उसमें भंडारण से यहाँ बेचते हैं। तो इसमें IPGA को पुनः धन्यवाद देता हूँ।
Import peas from other countries.
I will just sum up for Brett and Sergey what Mithilesh Gupta
जो कुछ
he mentioned that normal production is around 6 lakh metric tons, 600,000 metric tons. And the main growing areas are UP, Bihar and MP. And current year, he expects a very good crop of 11 to 12 lakh tons. Chana production, that is the desi chickpeas production, is up. And that's why the government has curbed imports of yellow peas. They have not released any quotas, and they have curbed the imports of yellow peas. And we don't see them opening it up in the near future because of the very good crop of desi chickpeas. And he expects that government should be a little more liberal so that, you know, the protein which is available in yellow peas reaches the masses. So that's what I wanted to summarize as to what Mithilesh Gupta had to say. Thank you, Mithilesh ji. Shukriya. Now I will introduce Brett Melvin, trader for Maviga, NA, located in Spokane, Washington, USA. Maviga was established in 1994 and was acquired in 2016 by EDF Man, still operating under the Maviga name. He heads up the EDF Man pulse trading business. Maviga specializes in the origination, processing, and trading of peas, as well as some other specialty crops in Canada and the US. We put great emphasis, he says, on product quality, performance, integrity, and service commitment. Brett, over to you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And again, thank you for the IPGA for putting on this seminar. So I just prepared a few slides that I'm going to show for US both for pea production. Okay, so this first slide shows the pea production areas in the USA. There's actually 3 areas where peas are grown. So the first area is over here where you can see my mouse. It's referred to as the Pacific Northwest, and this includes Washington and Idaho State. So in this area, they're primarily growing whole green peas, and for the 2020 crop year, they produced around 145,000 metric tons. So the second production area is referred to as the Northern Plains, and that is right here in the center. That includes Montana and North Dakota, and that's actually the largest pea production area in the US, and they're growing both yellow and green peas in this area. So for 2020 crop, they produced approximately 800,000 metric tons of peas. So on the last and the smallest is the Midwest, and this includes South Dakota and Nebraska. And in this area, they're mainly growing yellow peas, and for the 2020 crop, they produced around 40,000 metric tons. So this area last year tended to be on the drier side, so their yields weren't as good, and their quality was still good. But for the Northern Plains and the Pacific Northwest, we had pretty ideal seeding, growing, and harvest conditions. So we had above average yields in all areas, and the quality was also very good. So most of the peas produced in these areas did grade a US #1 grade. So the next slide I have is the US stock report. And so the columns on the left kind of show the crop years for peas back to crop year 2016. And the column on the far right shows the forecast for the 2021 crop year. So that's what I'm going to be paying attention to mainly for this. So you could see the acreage was down by approximately 100,000 acres from the previous crop year. And this was due to trade tariffs, and lower prices to farmers. So the total acreage for the 2020 crop year for us was around 100,000 acres. And also yields were up on average compared to previous years. As I said before, they averaged at 2,234 pounds per acre. So with this, it gives the US a total production of 985,802 metric tons of peas. So on top of production, they also had a fairly large carryover, which was around 296,000 metric tons. So we had about 80,000 metric tons of imports, which gives us a total supply of 1.362 million metric tons of peas. So also in this crop year, we've seen increased demand on both domestic and exports. COVID, I think, was a driving factor in that, definitely, but we expect that to continue through the end of the 2020 crop year. You could see, for instance, this is comparing 19 crop to 2020 crop. You could see our exports were up by almost double for tonnage. And another trend to note out for the disappearance of stocks is you can see domestic consumption has continually increased. More and more people are choosing to be healthier and have healthier diets in the US and consume pulses. So we don't expect that to go away. So And so after you take out the disappearance, the U.S. is going to be left with around 145,000 metric tons of peas at the end of the year. And so that's about 10.7% for the carryover ratio. So the last slide I have just kind of talks about current pea trends. So first I can touch base on the pricing. You know, currently pricing for peas in the U.S. is fairly firm, and I would expect them to hold this trend into the new crop year. We've seen all commodity prices edging up, and to compete, you know, processors are having to go out and contract at higher prices to growers to get them to plant peas, because there's other alternatives, you know, that are competing with that. So another point is that yellow peas in the U.S. are becoming more and more difficult to find, which for only, I guess, being February, you know, it seems like they should be more available, but they aren't. And with the increase in prices, growers that do have them are tending to hold on to them, and they're watching the price go up and not really interested in selling. So next, in the U.S., we have the USDA actually does some food aid purchasing that they ship overseas to countries, say in like Africa. And this is a big market for peas in the U.S. for all parts of the industry. So lately we've been noticing they've been ramping up their purchasing. Just last week, they bought 35,000 metric tons of peas. 23,000 tons of that was yellow splits, and 12,000 tons of that was whole green peas. And already again this week, they're back in looking to purchase another 11,500 metric tons of yellow splits. So just as a comparison of what they've bought in the past, you know, it always varies. You never know what they're going to purchase or what volumes. But last year they purchased 101,000 metric tons of yellow splits and 31,700 metric tons of whole green peas. So another trend that's big for the U.S. is the pet food market buys a fair amount of peas, and they're continuing to buy peas. You know, they buy up to approximately 200,000 metric tons of peas. So, and then another thing too is the increased demand for plant-based protein. You know, like I said, more people in the U.S. are choosing healthier diets. So that trend and market's not going to go away. You know, it's been very noticeable. There's bigger companies are investing lots of money into these fractionation plants, and that'll continue to drive demand for peas domestically in the U.S. So lastly, I just touch base on acreage. You know, with current prices to growers, and with growers having good yields and doing fairly well with their peas last year, I would expect acreage to be up for our 2021 crop, which is seeded, you know, around April or so. But it's still early to tell by how much. You know, people are still out there chasing and trying to contract, and farmers are still making decisions. But within a month or two, we should have more of a better idea on the percentages. But that's kind of all I have. So again, thank you for having me.
Thank you, Brett. Just a couple of questions. Leading up to the new crop, how do you see the prices, you know, playing out of yellow peas as well as green peas? And
sorry. So for prices, you know, I would expect them to hold up, especially if for yellow peas. You know, a big outlet is going to be the USDA tenders that they're doing, and if they continue to buy, you know, you could see them. You get maybe processors and stuff are getting better prices in the domestic markets than for export. So,
right.
I mean, and that yellow split pea business is pretty important for a lot of plants in the United States.
Can you throw some numbers on what is the current USA #2 pricing for green peas?
Yeah, so it'd be, I mean, it's kind of tough to tell right now. If I had to give a range, I'd just say around 500 to 550. And prices too for green peas and yellow peas to the grower are getting fairly close to being similar to that. So, I mean, you could, I guess, use that indication for both.
That's a high number for yellow peas.
Yeah. But I mean, the thing is it's just difficult for exports because guys are getting that and not having to ship. And also, I'd like to know, current shipping conditions off the West Coast are really, really a struggle right now. So that is added cost to everybody trying to export goods.
And as far as North America is concerned, and I'm covering both Canada and USA, is there any concern that India may not take any yellow peas, or is China filling up that gap?
I think China's taking a big part of that gap. And I mean, I can't speak 100% on the Canadian side, but I know in the US, we've also seen a pretty big demand from China, but also domestically has been pretty big too. You know, you have these new fractionation plants coming online that are taking up more peas. You have the pet food industry, and you also have the government procurement as well. So, but I do know in Canada, China did take big volumes. I don't have those numbers, but yeah.
Right. Thank you, Brett. I think Rav is not there. He's been called away for something urgent, and we'll see if he joins back. In the meantime, Sergey, I will introduce Sergey Feofilov, Director General, Ukragroconsult. Sergey, a PhD in economics, is the founder of Ukragroconsult, the first Ukrainian consulting agency specializing in the agricultural sector of Ukraine and Black Sea region since 1994. Sergey has more than 25 years of expertise in analysis of agricultural market of Ukraine and the Black Sea countries. He has broad national and international contacts in trading, banking, and investment spheres, and is a recognized speaker at major international agri-conferences. Ukragroconsult serves global agribusiness operators from 50 countries worldwide, delivering quality market information and analysis for effective decision-making. The company provides analytical reports on grains, oilseeds, pulses, deep market research in agribusiness and the food industry, investment consulting, business planning, and is an organizer of the major international conference on grains and oilseeds. Company's services are trusted by agricultural holdings and farms, leading international and Ukrainian agricultural producers, traders, processors, investors, banks, etc. Ukragroconsult cooperates with the leading international and intergovernmental organizations in the agrarian sector. Over to you, Sergey.
Well, hi everybody. Thank you very much for your presentation of me and of my company, Ukragroconsult. And thanks a lot, organizers of this seminar. I mean India Pulses and Grain Association for the possibility to make presentation about Ukrainian and Black Sea grain market. Well, pulses market actually in all Black Sea countries, including Ukraine, is very promising in spite of all technological and financial problems. I prepared, as Brett, I prepared a number of slides. Well, just a moment, I put it on. Как убрать этот самый? Да. Как чтобы весь экран был? F5. Just a moment, yeah. Yes, well, for the Black Sea countries, this is Ukraine, Russia, Kazakhstan, Bulgaria, Romania. In fact, all these countries follow the same trend. Well, production of all pulses, including peas, was record high in 2017 and then declined quite impressively. Well, this is as for export of pulses from the Black Sea countries. I've already mentioned what countries. Well, as for Ukraine, well, in Ukraine, yellow peas areas are the biggest if to compare with other pulse crops. Well, and in Ukraine, as I've already mentioned, peas production was record high in 2017-18 season. And please note that at average, roughly 70–75% of peas produced in Ukraine is exported. So foreign demand is a key driving factor for production and export from Ukraine. Share of Ukraine in the global crop, in the global pea production, again was the highest in 2018. It was roughly about 6%, and then it declined and stabilized at level of 4%. Well, Ukrainian peas harvest last year in 2020 again declined, and the reasons for the decline was not only a weather factor in the spring during plantings, but also because of switching of Ukrainian peas export from India to European Union countries. Well, and previously India was #1 consumer of Ukrainian peas, but capacity of Indian market used to be seriously high than import needs of European countries. Production of peas in Ukraine has been under pressure of low margins compared to other crops. Well, this is the indicators of profitability of peas in Ukraine, and you see that 2 years ago, 2018 and 19, the margins of peas were even negative. And the same trend, the same situation is for the last year, for 2020. The farmers that year were scarcely able to cover their production costs from revenues. Well, and this is in spite of increasing prices for peas from August, September. In last year, in 2020, Indian demand for pulses recovered, but this happened mainly due to reduction of the import tax for lentils, down to 10%. It was made in last August, but a quota and for peas imports remained actually at level of 0. Well, this is table for supply demand of Ukrainian feed peas. I'm rather optimistic for Ukrainian peas production and export in the next season, in the season of 2021-22, mainly because of peas prices and margin increased impressively, starting from August, September 2020. Well, our prediction is that this year, in the coming summer, Ukrainian peas production will be at level 550,000 tons. Actually, this is plus 9–10% to the previous year. I expect peas export in the coming 2021-22 season will be at level of 415,000 tons. well, again, this is not a bad increase compared to the previous season. And well, I think that Chinese demand for peas as a high protein component of animal feed supports the world, and so this way supports the domestic prices for peas and farmers' margins. Well, another story about prices, long-term prices for feed peas. In 2017, well, it was a time of record high peas production, and peas prices were much better than prices for wheat, again due to high foreign demand. Then spread between peas and wheat prices shrank, and peas prices went down, promoting declines in area, in production, and pea exports. Well, the situation was changed in last March, April, immediately after lockdowns started. Well, peas prices initially varied greatly and went down even. This was for a short time because of harvesting. Because of harvesting, and also the supply of peas was growing, and then starting from April, September, peas prices went up very impressively. And the reasons why it happened, it was mainly lower grain production, uncertainties of weather, and for sure Chinese demand for coarse grain, as China needs coarse grain, including feed peas, to feed animal sector, with quickly recovering pig inventories after African swine fever. In Ukraine, last but not least factor promoting domestic price growing was farmers' behavior. Ukrainian farmers decided to delay sales of their peas, expecting even higher prices. And well, such decisions influence greatly the export rates of Ukrainian peas. In the very beginning of the last season, in July and August, peas export was unusually high, especially if compared with export in 2019. But then after domestic prices went up quite impressively, Ukrainian peas turned into too much expensive, and other peas suppliers, including from the US and especially from Canada, well, they were more attractive. They proposed peas at cheaper, and so the consumers switched to buying peas from their origins. And for Ukrainian export, key targets include European markets, then Turkey and Pakistan. And in Europe, key buyers include Italy, Spain, Netherlands. And well, as for other big stories, possible big stories, big issues for Ukrainian peas export is that in Ukraine now we expect when Chinese market will be opened for Ukrainian peas. And this story to preparation of all documents, how to agree all the certificates, this story started 2 years ago, and I hope that in the coming 3-5 months, I hope that a Chinese market might be opened for Ukrainian feed peas, and so it will be very nice driver for expansion of Ukrainian production and export. Well, actually, this is all my presentation, and well, this is the report, market report, which about pulses of Ukraine and other Black Sea countries. We prepare daily, weekly, and monthly. And who is interested to know more about this market, well, I will be happy to start cooperation with them. And well, thank you very much for your attention. Well, I'm happy to answer to your question.
Thank you, Sergey, for a very detailed and insightful analysis. It was really very informative. And there was one question for you, from the audience. What about new markets apart from China and Bangladesh? Are you seeing any new markets for export of Ukrainian product? Yellow peas.
Well, yes, yellow peas, key markets. Well, for Ukrainian yellow peas, well, as I mentioned, it is European Union countries. Well, like Italy, Spain, and Netherlands. Well, the next destination is Sri Lanka. It is well, and then goes Malaysia and Turkey. This is four biggest importers of Ukrainian feed peas last year.
All right. Thank you, Sergey.